All right. What's up, everybody? So look, man, check it out. So look, there's this new kind of like it's like an opinion, right? That's that's been out here and it seems to be catching some traction and shit, right? I think I saw this on the Boxing Voice. I think the Boxing Voice is the one that first started saying this stuff, and like a lot of people are running with it. Even on my channel, on the comments, I'm seeing a lot of people leaving that comment, right? And that is that why is David Benavidez trying to strip Bivol to get the WBC belt when all he has to do is wait, fight Caleb Smith in the meantime, and then wait for the trilogy between Bivol and Beterbiev to unfold, and he could get his shot at all the belts instead of just getting the WBC belt, right? And look, man, I'm gonna just answer that real quick, bro, because maybe a lot of you guys do think that's a smart idea. Maybe a lot of people don't. But obviously, Benavidez doesn't want to do that shit, right? And I think that this is why he doesn't want to do it. Because him waiting for the trilogy to unfold, him stepping aside, telling Bivol, okay, yeah, keep the WBC belt, go fight a trilogy with Beterbiev. David Benavidez has not promised that fight for the winner between Beterbiev and Bivol. Benavidez has been here before, man. How many times have they told David Benavidez, hey, fight this guy, fight that guy, and then you'll get your chance. Fight this guy, sit on the sideline, wait, this and that. He's been here before, bro. They've been doing him dirty and shit. And this is why I think that he's not trying to wait for that shit, right? Fortunately for David Benavidez, for the first time in a very long time, he's got a little position of power with him being the mandatory. Because we all know that even at 168, when he was the mandatory versus Canelo, the WBC decided to protect Canelo. They never mandated the fight. It was a fucking huge, I don't even know what to call it, right? As soon as David Benavidez moved up to 175, they came out here and started trying to say that they mandated the fight between him and Canelo, but David Benavidez moved up to 175. And yes, a lot of the Canelo groupies ran with that because the Canelo groupies, they run with whatever benefits them, and they choose not to see the truth, and they just go with whatever bullshit that they feed them, and that's what it was, right? So now that the WBC is actually doing right by David Benavidez, and I'm going to tell you guys why all of this shit is happening. I'm going to break it down. They're trying to, now David Benavidez didn't have to come out here and push no mandatory button. He didn't have to activate his mandatory like all the Canelo groupies love to say. It's the WBC's job to mandate fights. It's not David Benavidez nor any other fighter to come out here and mandate fights. You guys are basically saying that these fighters are the ones that have the power to make the fights happen. No, this is what the WBC and any other organization is here for. That is their job, David Benavidez is in a position of power right now for the first time in a very long time in his career. And like I said, man, if he just if he takes that step aside money from Bivol and tells him, okay, you know what? Keep the WBC belt, go fight the trilogy, and I'll be here waiting on the winner of that. Who's to say that the winner between Beterbiev and Bivol, they will still be undisputed? Who's to say that Canelo won't swoop in there and get that fight before David Benavidez? We all know that Canelo was working with Turkey. And who's to say that Turkey won't give Canelo that fight instead of giving it to David Benavidez? See, this is the reason why I think that David Benavidez isn't trying to do that shit, right? David Benavidez knows that he's the true champion. He deserves to be the champion. And now that he's got this little bit of power, he's trying to use it so some right can be done by him, bro, because they've been doing David Benavidez dirty for a very, very long time, man. And it's crazy as fuck because, look, now let's get into some of these comments that were left on my last video, right? Look, United 46, he's talking about that would be dumb. That would be a dumb move by Benavidez. Once he gets WBC, Bivol would have no obligation to fight him. He won't be ranked on any other sanctioning body and only get the fight if Bivol decides to do it. Exactly, right? But check it out. Look, this is how crazy this shit has gotten. He said Bivol would have no obligation to fight him. See, look, it's crazy as fuck when people think that somebody like Bivol, they're thinking like, nah, Bivol wouldn't fight David Benavidez. You know what I'm saying? Why are people thinking like this when boxing is supposed to be the best fighting the best? But you know why people are thinking like this right now in the sport of boxing? It's because of Canelo, bro. People are so used to the way Canelo moves and the way Canelo ducks the best fighters and this and that, that they're actually trying to say now that Bivol would have no obligation to fight him. Come on, man. When has Bivol really ducked any smoke, right? Bivol is a fighter that you cannot compare to Canelo. You cannot compare him to the way that Canelo moves. Me, I would think that somebody like Bivol would want to fight David Benavidez so he could keep proving his greatness. You know what I'm saying? And I do not think in no way, shape, or form that in the future, when there's nobody else left for Bivol to fight, I do not see why he wouldn't take a fight with somebody like David Benavidez, you know? So that answers that. You know, moving on, Castor Shells, check out this comment that he left. David want to pick up a vacant belt, laugh my ass off. Turkey offered him big money to fight on the undercard of the third Beterbiev-Bivol fight while he waits to fight the winner. But David wants to wait on the WBC to strip Bivol and pick up a vacant title. It's obvious. So, damn, this comment is just crazy as hell, bro. This is just a straight hating ass comment with no sense behind it. Because look, you got David Benavidez out here, like I said, right? Once again, bro, it's happening all over again, and I do not see how people can't see it. David Benavidez is once again pushing for the fight that all of us want to see, that the whole boxing world wants to see, which is now Bivol. So, David Benavidez, he refused to take the step-aside money. You know, he's saying, no, I want this Bivol fight. And now, because Bivol does not want to fight David Benavidez at this moment, for whatever reason it might be, because of the trilogy, because of Turkey, whatever. A lot of people are saying that Bivol sold out to Turkey. And it might be true, it might not be, because Turkey is pretty much telling Bivol what to do. And he's not really giving him no options for him to decide what he wants to do, you know. But like I said, for whatever reason that Bivol does not want to fight David Benavidez right now, you got people like this guy out here making up shit once again, saying that Benavidez wants to pick up a vacant title because Bivol does not want to fight him right now, you know, which is crazy as hell, bro. This was the same shit that happened to David Benavidez at 168 when David Benavidez kept calling out Canelo, bro, calling him out. Canelo was out here making excuse after excuse after excuse why he didn't want to fight David Benavidez. He got protected by the WBC, so the fight was never enforced. And it got so bad that David Benavidez had to jump up to 175. And you still got a bunch of fucking idiots saying that it was David Benavidez's fault that that fight never happened, when it was so obvious, when you could go on any interview, any Canelo interview right now, and hear Canelo speak out of his own mouth and make up excuse after excuse to why he does not want to fight David Benavidez, but yet people are blaming David for the fight not happening, which is crazy as hell. And now, like I said, the same thing is happening at 168 to where, guess what? David Benavidez didn't accept the step-aside money. He's pushing for the fight where when it was all of you guys, I still remember that it was all of you guys that were saying, oh, Benavidez is going to duck Bivol. Benavidez is going to duck Beterbiev. Benavidez doesn't really want to fight Bivol or Beterbiev. And now that David Benavidez is using his little position of power, his mandatory, to push for this Bivol fight, you know, when you guys were saying that he was going to duck it, and now you guys are making up new fucking excuses or new narratives that David Benavidez wants to fight for a vacant title, bro. When it's clear as fuck that he's trying to push for the Bivol fight and fight him for all the belts and become undisputed. So see, this is what I just don't get, bro. I just do not get this hate that people have towards David Benavidez. And yes, we all know that it's the Canelo lovers, bro, the Canelo groupies that do this shit. And look, I'm going to ask you guys something, right? Because I'm going to break down the differences between a fighter like David Benavidez and a fighter like Canelo, right? And here's the biggest difference between these guys. You know, you got somebody like Canelo, right? He has all the power in the world, man. Everybody knows Canelo could pretty much fight whoever he wants. He has all the power. They break rules for him, this and that. And any fighter is willing to fight Canelo because of that payday. This is what everybody says, right? So let me ask you guys something, right? When was the last time that Canelo, with all of this power that he has to fight whoever he wants, when was the last time that Canelo actually gave us a fight that we were interested in, that we wanted, us as the boxing fans, even his boxing fans? When was the last time that Canelo gave us a fight that we wanted? You know, I ask you guys that and leave it down in the comment section. Because I can't even think about it, bro. When was the last time that Canelo gave us a fight that we were actually interested, that we actually wanted to see? Was it the Bivol fight? Because I don't even know if it was that. Because honestly, when that fight first got announced, I don't even know if there was too many people that were interested in that shit. It became a good fight, and people are interested in it now in the rematch because Bivol actually beat him. But back then, I don't even think it was that many people were interested in it because nobody knew who Bivol was. You know, so think about that shit, right? Now you got somebody like David Benavidez that has no power whatsoever to make people fight against him, bro. This guy basically is out here begging for fights and shit. Yet, he has no power to make any fights, yet he's still making better fights than Canelo? How in the fuck does that happen, right? He is still pushing for better fights than Canelo. He is out here trying to give the fans the fights that make sense and the fights that the fans want to see. You know, yet people ride with Canelo when it's obvious as fuck, bro. All he does, he just cares about himself. He doesn't give a damn about the fights. Like I said, and I repeat to you guys the same question. When was the last time Canelo, with all of that power that he has to make whatever fight that he wants, when was the last time he gave us a fight that we were actually interested in? You know, because the last time David Benavidez gave us a fight that everybody tuned in to watch was his last fight against David Morrell, in a fight that he did not have to take, yet he gave it to us just because he cares about his fans and he cares about doing the right things, and he's trying to make the best fights. And with all of that being said, you guys still want to come out here and hate on him and doubt that he wants to fight Bivol, doubt that he wants to fight Beterbiev, when at the end of the day, bro, it's just clear as day that David Benavidez is just trying to give the fans the best fights, and he's out here trying to make the best fights happen, as he is trying to do right now with this Bivol shit.